The Legend of the Cursed Cartridge. In the golden age of 8-bit gaming, there was one game that never officially existed. At least, not in any official catalog or retailer. It was whispered about in hushed tones at arcades and schoolyards. A forbidden legend among NES enthusiasts. The game was called Eternal Night, and those who had played it swore they wished they never had. The story started in the late 1980s, during the height of the Nintendo Entertainment System's reign. A small development studio known as Virex Games was contracted to create a horror-themed adventure, something darker than Castlevania, but more cerebral than Shadowgate. The project was ambitious, meant to push the limits of the NES hardware. But midway through development, Virex Games mysteriously shut down. The game was never officially released. Yet somehow, Eternal Night found its way into the hands of players. The first discovery. In 1991, a young collector named Daniel Harris stumbled upon an unmarked gray NES cartridge at a flea market in his hometown of Chicago. The vendor, an older man with a weathered face, claimed it was one of a kind. The only distinguishing mark on the cart was the faintly engraved words, Eternal Night, on the back. Intrigued, Daniel paid the $5 asking price and took it home. Upon inserting the cartridge into his NES, he found no title screen. Only a black void before the game suddenly thrust him into the middle of a decayed, Gothic town, with haunting chiptune music playing in the background. The main character was a cloaked figure with glowing white eyes, carrying nothing but a lantern. The game had no instructions, no text boxes, only an eerie silence, broken occasionally by distorted whispers from the speakers. Daniel played for hours, wandering through crumbling buildings and shadowed alleyways. There were no enemies, but he felt watched. He swore he saw flickering shapes moving just outside the screen's view. At one point, the music stopped completely, replaced by the sound of Daniel's own character breathing. Then, something happened that no NES game should have been able to do. A text box appeared, as if someone, or something, was addressing Daniel directly. "Why did you wake me?" He turned the console off immediately, heart pounding. The spread of the legend. Daniel wasn't the only one who had encountered Eternal Night. Over the next few years, more reports surfaced on early gaming bulletin boards and local gaming magazines. Each story was eerily similar. The cartridge would be found at garage sales, thrift stores, or even tucked away in used game bins. Those who played described an unsettling atmosphere. Environments that changed when they weren't looking. Cryptic messages directed at them, and sometimes even their own name appearing in the game's text, despite no apparent way for the cartridge to know them. Then came the most terrifying part. Anyone who played Eternal Night for too long started experiencing nightmares. Dreams of the same crumbling town, shadowed figures watching them from alleyways, and the whispering voice from the game calling their name. A few even claimed that objects in their home would move overnight, small but noticeable. Their NES controllers found in different places, the cartridge itself appearing back in the console even when they had put it away. Most players, terrified, got rid of their copies, but no matter where the game was discarded, burned, smashed, or even thrown into rivers, it always seemed to resurface elsewhere, waiting for its next victim. The investigation. By the mid-2000s, Eternal Night had become a full-blown internet legend. Gaming forums dissected every known copy, but the game was elusive. ROM dumps failed, as the data would corrupt or simply refuse to run. YouTube channels attempted to record gameplay, only for the footage to mysteriously glitch or erase itself. Determined to get answers, a gaming historian named James Wentworth tracked down the original developers of Virex Games. Most had vanished into obscurity, but one former programmer, Alan Reeves, agreed to talk. Reeves revealed the shocking truth. Eternal Night was never finished. The studio had been working on a complex AI-driven horror game, something revolutionary for the time. It was supposed to adapt to the player, learning from their choices and crafting a unique horror experience. However, during development, strange bugs began appearing, text appearing that no one had written, character sprites moving on their own, even entire levels forming without any programmer input. Reeves and his team joked that the game was alive, but the glitches became more unsettling. One day, the lead designer, Evan Morris, locked himself in the studio, playing the game for hours. When his co-workers found him, he was muttering about voices and refused to step away from the console. The next day, he disappeared without a trace. The studio shut down shortly after. No one knew how copies of the game had leaked out. The only known prototype had been locked in Virex Games' vault before they shut down. But somehow, Eternal Night had spread, finding new players like a curse waiting to be passed on. The Final Encounter. In 2023, a well-known Twitch streamer named Alex Nightmare Mode Carter made it his mission to find and play Eternal Night live on stream. After months of searching, he managed to get a copy from a private collector. Thousands of viewers tuned in as Alex booted up the game. It played out like the stories had said. An empty town, a lantern-carrying figure, the whispers growing louder. Then, something new happened. The screen flickered. Alex's webcam glitched, distorting his face. A text box appeared. "You cannot leave." The game reset itself, but this time, Alex's character was gone from the screen. The town was still there, but empty. Then, on his webcam, viewers saw something impossible. A shadow moved behind Alex, just for a second. The stream cut to black. Alex never streamed again. His account was deleted, his social media wiped. Some claimed he staged it as an elaborate hoax, but those who had watched live insisted it was real. The last known message from Alex was a single cryptic tweet. "The lantern has gone out." The aftermath. To this day, copies of Eternal Night still surface, appearing in forgotten corners of game shops, in basements, or even mailed anonymously to unsuspecting collectors. No one knows how many exist, but one thing remains true: those who play never forget, and those who play too long never come back.